Tweety Griswold to come forward and lead us in the pledge. We'd all stand and face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Motion by Councilmember Eichelhart. Do we have a second? Second by Councilmember DiPolito. Does anyone in the audience have any questions regarding the consent agenda? Do we have a motion for approval? Oh, we already had a motion. Do we have a motion for approval? All in favor of the consent agenda, raise their hand. Rich, have you voted? Becky? All that passes unanimously. First, I have a proclamation to read on behalf of the Administration and Finance Department, who we very much appreciate. They do a great job of investing our money, keeping track of our money, and keeping us keeping our AAA bond rating, and all the other things that administrators do. Whereas the week of October 26, 2009 through October 30th, 2009 will be recognized as Administration and Finance Appreciation Week. And whereas the mission statement for the Administration Department is providing result-oriented communication, service, and innovation to our customers. The Administration Department currently operates with 79 employees. And whereas the mission statement of the Finance Department is to provide excellent and accurate service to our customers, financial stewardship for the city's resources, and professional services to the city departments, and they employ 27 employees. Now, therefore, I, Jerry Wood, Mayor of the City of Roswell, do hereby proclaim the week of October 26, 2009 through October 30th, 2009 is Administration and Finance Appreciation Week in the City of Roswell. And I call upon all of our citizens to recognize the talents and dedication of all of our employees in our Administration and Finance Department who strive for excellence and provide us with the best customer service possible. And with that, I would like all the folks in the Administration and Finance Department to stand up to be recognized. If you'd stand up. Okay, you're part of that department. And David Davidson is part of that. But let's give them a hand for the great job that they do. Thank you. Do we have anything else to announce on behalf of the Administration and Finance Week?
Sure, we always have something. I'd just like to say thank you on behalf of Administration and Finance for recognizing us. These two departments are the heart of the support of this organization, not only support all the other departments but our citizens, and probably don't get to have direct contact with the citizens like some of our other departments such as public safety or transportation, but they are here working very hard each and every day, and I appreciate what they do, and they certainly do a good job. So we will have a number of activities through the week for our staff members, and the Mayor and Council have been invited to those, and you'll get reminders about that. So we look forward to celebrating the week.
Great. And with that, I would like to recognize the Roswell Women's Club. Begin by saying at 3:30 this afternoon, we went out and inspected the triangle and the beautiful landscaping work that the Women's Club paid $1,500 that they raised through their efforts to beautify that little part of the city, and it is very attractive. And I want to, on behalf of the city, I want to thank the Women's Club for that donation and that impetus to make us that little piece of Roswell a little more attractive, which I consider is the true heart and center of Roswell. And with that, I'd like to invite the Women's Club to come forward. And they are also organizing the Women's Club debate tomorrow. How many years has the Women's Club been organizing this debate?
I asked Marion Hicks that very question about 30 minutes ago, and she is about 25 years. Is her best recollection.
As long as I can remember, this is the Women's Club debate has been sponsoring this, and we appreciate that very much. And with that, I'll introduce Tweety Griswold, who is the president this year, for her words from her and the rest of the membership. You need to speak into the microphone, Tweety.
I would like to introduce the three ladies who were integrally involved with the Triangle Project, Dr. Betty Price, Beth Hamilton, and Linda Lee Parker. Buff Van Epps was also involved, and which other Women's Club members were on your committee that particular year? And Cheryl Rappaport. We look forward to future projects to beautify the city of Roswell and urban improvement. Oh, thank you. Please come. But you can make those introductions because I do not know the gentleman.
Okay. Jay Reisinger with the city conceptualized the plan for the triangle out there, and as you all know, as you drive by that, it's really looking lovely as it's maturing, and this is the rendering that he provided for us when the project started. Thank you, Jay.
And let's have a hand for the Women's Club and Jay Reisinger for the donation and the ideas and the vision. Thank you. Does the Women's Club have anything else to announce upcoming other than the debate, which we're all keenly aware of tomorrow night? And why don't you all announce for anyone in the audience who happens to be from another planet and not know about this, your plans for the debate?
I missed a little bit of what you said, Jerry.
Tell us
Mr.
about
Mayor, I'm sorry.
when the debate's going to be and a little overview of the debate tomorrow.
The candidates forum is tomorrow night. All three mayoral candidates and all of the candidates for city council posts will be represented 7 to 9 o'clock here in council chambers. And we are planning for our 2010 Showcase Home Tour to continue raising funds that we can disperse in the community to nonprofit organizations and to scholarships to graduating seniors. And that will be in March 2010. Much more information will follow. But we appreciate your recognizing the efforts of this club that's been around for about 60 years and continues to have great influence in the city. Thank you.
Let's have another hand for the Women's Club. This time I'd like David Davidson to read a resolution I'd like the council to consider.
Thank you. This is a resolution requesting Georgia Department of Transportation to substitute Roswell as a destination for the now existing destination Norcross on the exit marker for exit 7 on Georgia 400. Now, therefore, the mayor and council of the city of Roswell hereby declare that this exit from Georgia 400 onto Holcomb Bridge Road should be the Roswell exit, and hereby resolve and request that the Georgia Department of Transportation update the exit marker at exit 7 on Georgia 400 to reflect that a major portion of the city of Roswell lies directly east of Georgia 400, and to designate the exits from Georgia 400 onto Holcomb Bridge Road east as the Roswell exit instead of the Norcross exit. If approved, this would be the reading of the resolution.
Ms. Dasenbeck, would you come to the microphone? I believe you've have some thoughts on this.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. This is a photograph of the Georgia 400 northbound coming up from the Chattahoochee River.
Can you zero in that so we can, the council...
Okay. This is what it says today. Exit 7B is 140 west and exit 7A is 140 east. And as you pointed out, it does say Roswell to the west and Norcross to the east. I'd like to direct your attention to this little supplementary ground-mounted sign right there. That looks like this. And that sign was there. Actually, it was in the woods, and when they put that sound attenuating barrier there, it got kind of covered up, so we had them remove it. So in an effort to try to help things along, today we magically did this. And it is not without precedent, because the Chattahoochee River Bridge going into Gwinnett County on our eastern boundary has had that sign supplemented on there for quite a number of years. You may, that's the Johns Creek Environmental Campus there in the background. So we've already had this sign as you approach the city limits, and I offer this as an option to meet your intent.
I have been speaking with a lot of residents of Roswell all around the city, and a number of them have brought it to my attention they'd like to see this change made. And I'm just bringing this to the council's attention to see what the council's wishes are. Does the council have any thoughts on this? Council member Becky Wynn.
Here we go again. A resolution brought forth by the mayor that has not gone through the committee process. And for those of you who are sitting here, there is actually a process that was established by the 7 people sitting up here. The process is very, very, very simple. If a resident or an elected official or staff has an item or a suggestion, they can come, we can put it on the appropriate committee agenda. That will give us, elected officials, and the residents of Roswell and staff time enough to research, let's say, this resolution. So when we come to that venue, then we have a forum to have a very open and frank discussion from all sides. We're now starting at the end process because, if we get the consensus, then it comes to council. But it seems like the mayor wants to start at council first and then see how the political wind is blowing to see if we vote on it or if it has to go to committee. This is not how the process works. I don't care what it is. This is not how the process works. And the process we've had has worked very well. In fact, if anybody wants to look at my packet, everything in my packet except for the 2 proclamations and the mayor's resolution went through committee. Every single agenda item went through committee. This is not the time nor the place to look at suggestions for a transportation department, which, by the way, Mr. Eisenbrack, I do like it. But this is not the time nor the place to bring this forward. It is at the committee level. And let me tell you right now, folks, our next committee that would be discussing this is Wednesday, the 21st. And if we had got a consensus, it would have been on the agenda November 2nd. It's a 2-week wait. So there's no time limit. This is not sensitive. It might be politically sensitive to some people, but it is not a sensitive item. So when a motion has come up, my motion would be to send this back to committee, and let's go through the proper process that was established by these 7 people sitting up here.
Mr. Davidson, is there any written process for how a resolution, is there anything to prohibit a resolution from coming to council without going to committee first? Is there any written resolution on that of that nature?
There is nothing that prohibits the city administrator, mayor, council, or myself from bringing anything to council directly.
With having said that, if Mrs. Wynn, if you would like to study this further, I have no objection to your motion if you wish to make a motion to defer this to take it to committee.
And I appreciate that, Mr. Mayor, but again, I didn't say it was written. I said it was in a policy established. That, as far as I can remember, I've been on the board, on this council for about 2 years now, and there was an exception every once in a while to the rule, but now seems to be normal. I'm not saying that you cannot bring it, but something this major has got to go through the process. And so my motion would be to table this and bring it to committee on the 21st.
We have a motion to table this and bring it to committee. Do we have a second? Second by Councilmember DiPolito. Does anyone in the audience have any thoughts on this they'd like to express at this time? Any further discussion by council? Councilman Orleans.
Mr. Eisenbach.
Sir.
In looking at this, and I don't know if you can do this before Wednesday discussion in committee or not, but several years ago I approached the Georgia DOT about getting Roswell on the Mansell exit, because Roswell is both directions off of Mansell, even if it was like Roswell Alpharetta or Alpharetta Roswell.
So exit 8 after 400?
Yes, exit 8. So maybe you can have some discussions about that as well before Wednesday with DOT. And they tried to just push us off by saying that the intersection was in the city limits of Alpharetta. But I think now it's pretty apparent that there's a lot of Roswell that goes off both of those exits. So if you could look into that before.
Research it. Yes, sir.
Appreciate it.
Councilmember DiPolito.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also want to make sure that we're talking to DOT about this period, because Steve, you've done a great job in working with them, and really growing that relationship, and I think we have a great relationship now with the Georgia DOT. I don't want to do anything to jeopardize that, so let's make sure we cross all the T's and dot the I's, talk to the appropriate people, and get their buy-in before we start pushing anything forward, because the last thing I want to do is strain that relationship by trying to push something forward that they are opposed to.
Yes, sir. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I have spoken with our representative on the Georgia Department of Transportation, and he says that he supports this if it's the wishes of the city of Roswell, and he has already spoken with the DOT staff, and they're simply waiting for the council's support. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. This time I'll call upon Recreation and Parks Department Liaison, Councilmember Jerry Orleans.
First item on the agenda is approval of the ordinance to ban smoking within the City of Roswell parks except within designated areas as indicated in the ordinance, and this is the second reading. And I think we have a fill-in here for Joe Glover tonight to answer any questions.
Thank you. This is an ordinance to ban smoking within the City of Roswell parks except within designated areas. Now, therefore, the Mayor and Council of the City of Roswell, pursuant to their authority, do hereby adopt the following ordinance. Section 14.2.4K of the City of Roswell Code of Ordinances is hereby amended by striking it entirely and substituting the following section in its place. Subsection K will read, smoking. It shall be unlawful for any person to smoke in any park except within a private vehicle while such vehicle is either parked in a designated parking area within the park or is being driven upon a public thoroughfare within the park. The foregoing exception to the no smoking ban shall not apply to minors who are not permitted to smoke anywhere in a park. If approved, this will be the second reading of the ordinance.
Councilmember Wynn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I see that you all removed the thing about closing the windows, so I appreciate that. But I think all of us received an email, which is kind of brings up another issue from a resident about motorcycles or bicycles or any type of mode of transportation that is not a four-wheel enclosed vehicle. So when it says here, while such vehicle is either private vehicle, while such vehicle is either parked in designated parking areas, yada yada, does that exclude motorcycles? Does that exclude any other form of transportation? I know, we've got to nail this down, so I'm just I'm curious about that, because to me it's either we're going to have to ban smoking completely in the park, or we're going to have designated areas within the park itself for smoking, because I think there's just too many variables that we can look at when we use the definition private vehicle.
There was a question there. Did you understand the question?
Yes, sir,
No,
I did.
I think it's more to Mr. Davidson. I mean, with that definition.
Yes, ma'am, that's what I was waiting on.
Sorry, Jeff. Mr. Davidson.
Before you answer that question, just to further expound upon that, some people have been known to ride a horse into that park.
Sure.
Yes, sir, they have.
That would probably not qualify as a vehicle, and we encourage people to walk into that park, and that wouldn't have a vehicle at all. So I would just encourage, if that we make this work, to just say in the parking place, in the parking lot, you can smoke. Councilman Orland.
Well, as you said, encouraging people to walk and be healthy. And I know we've got a member of the Parks and Rec Commission in the audience if he wants to comment, but that's kind of why this whole thing started, is we're trying to encourage the healthy attitude, which is why we have the parks, which is why we encourage bicycle riding, which is why we encourage walking. And then also we've got a lot of debate going on the national scene about health care and wellness programs, and just trying to encourage people to take care of themselves. So that's where my impression is where the commission was coming from in trying to set an example for the children in the park. And initially it was to have a total ban. And in thinking in their discussions, they decided to allow it in the own person's car. If we start making all kinds of other exceptions, then we're defeating the purpose of what the Parks and Rec Commission was originally trying to do. and I think they may want us to go to a full ban in the park. So I was thinking, we thought that the ability as using the car, the automobile as a designated spot, would help solve a lot of it without total banning in the parks. I don't know, Mr. Toddy wants to come up and add to it from the commission standpoint, or his own comments. I don't know if he wants to or not, but that's kind of the logic and reason and where they came from. So the more exceptions we make, the more we're undermining the intent of what they were trying to do from the health standpoint, and promoting this and promoting people walking in, and people riding bicycles and walking theoretically wouldn't be smoking maybe. So my own feeling on bringing the motion forward would be to leave it as read, and with the designated smoking area being the automobile.
Other comments before we hear from the audience? Councilman Eigelhart.
Did we have a chance to find out what some of the other jurisdictions who have passed these have done, and what have they done?
Yes, sir, we have. We presented at the last commission meeting. To my knowledge, there's 4 municipalities within a state that have total bans on smoking. The city of Marietta has trying to push it past 2 of the parks. They have a town square and then one of the small complex areas where they have 1 athletic field. City of Gainesville has passed it citywide in all their parks facilities. Hall County is taking the Marietta approach, a little piece at a time, rather than biting off the whole county itself. So it started 2 years ago with a push, as Councilman Orland stated, with Georgia Recreation Parks Association with active, healthy lifestyles. And we started trying to change the way kids eat in the parks with some of the vending machines and concession stands, as well as trying to be active, involved in sports and other recreational activities. So it's kind of a mixed, and to answer Councilwoman Wynn's question, to an extent, the commission is kind of divided in a way such that several of them could be majority, want total ban in the park because of the same reasons that you guys brought up with the enforcement. But I think the apparent reason that they want to push forward is to just get the message out there. I think they would, and Councilman Toddy's welcome to comment, I think they want to get the message out there that we prefer as a city and as a department that you choose not to smoke in and around ball fields and in parks and on trails, rather than, adamantly enforcing it. That's going to be the gray area, is the enforcement.
Other comments before we entertain? Yes.
I just had a thought, something you said. So, for example, if someone is waiting for a table at Pastis and they're on the Triangle, that is considered a park, so there would be a smoking ban there. Or at Relish waiting for a table and they're at the Square, there would be a smoking ban there. So
yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Unless this group deemed appropriate parks, such as designated parks, and not.
I think I'd asked the question in committee that what spurred this. Were we having an issue? Were people abusing their privilege to be able to smoke in the parks? And I believe the answer I got was no, that this was just an initiative for healthy lifestyle.
Correct. And we've had, citizens' comments to staff on site, as well as emails and phone calls to Mr. Glover and Mr. Rogers about, smoking in the stands. I've come to see my kid play baseball, and I've asked them, could they move over, whether it be a cigar or a cigarette. And so, we haven't had an overwhelming outcry, but it's more to be a healthy, active lifestyle.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to comment before we hear from the audience? This time we'll hear from anyone in the audience who wishes to comment. Yes, sir, come forward if you'll give us your name and address.
I am Jim Tawdy, live at 1085 Stroop Road. I'm a member of the Rec Commission, and I was the only member of the Rec Commission to vote against a total ban. I believe that we need more balance, and I am for limited government, and I believe this is the heavy hand of government. I am for restrictions if anybody is being affected by secondhand smoke. I am for asking them to remove themselves somewhere else where someone won't be affected, but I am not for a total ban. We talk about trying to discourage smoking. Well, if we ban smoking, then people who come to the park and who smoke may stop coming to the park and getting the benefit of the use of the park and exercise and so forth. Employees who are working in the park who smoke may have to leave the park during lunch hour or whatever, and I believe that will make them less efficient. People who are in the park may have to leave the park, drive off campus or whatever, or decide to do that, and that uses more gasoline, which we're trying to cut our gasoline usage. And I think enforcement will be difficult. And what are the penalties? I haven't heard anything about what the penalties would be.
Mr. Davidson, do you know what the penalty would be for smoking in the park?
It would be the general penalty under our code, up to $1,000 fine, 90 days in jail.
I think that's
But
absurd.
it probably wouldn't be that much, but that's what the judge could rule.
You know, taxpayers there are some taxpayers who are smokers. So you're saying, even though you pay taxes, just don't smoke. So again, I would like to see more balance in what we are doing.
Mr. Tawdy, what would your recommendation be?
My recommendation would be to, what I said earlier, to anybody who, if people around a smoker are being affected by the smoke, then we would ask them to go to some other spot where they aren't affected.
That, I think, is a hard enforcement issue, too. Is there any area which you think we could allow folks to smoke versus this affected, which is a subjective call? If you're a park ranger, you need so you can smoke here, you can't smoke there.
Well, we could have designated areas, or if there's nobody around, you're out walking on one of the trails, covered bridge, whatever, you're out in the middle of the area behind Arts Center West, and you're the only one there, to say you can't smoke in that situation, I believe, is too restrictive.
Thank you, Mr. Tawdy.
Well,
does anyone else wish to comment? Back to council. Any further discussion by council before we entertain a motion? Councilmember DiPolito.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of thoughts. One, as a non-smoker, I see the benefit of not having smoking in the stands. I do, however, have a lot of friends who have kids who play at ball games at the park, and they wind up spending all day at the park. And for those folks, if they're smokers, it would be difficult for them to have to leave the park and leave the ball game and so forth. So I could see us having a limit to where smoking is allowed. I think it, just because of that reason, where people have to be there all day and they would naturally have to leave the entire park, I think that'd be kind of difficult on a lot of families. I'd like to see it maybe just restricted to the parking area.
Other comments from council? Councilmember Wynn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with Councilman DiPolito, but since there's some parking areas that's on-street parking, I was thinking more like the parking lots and not so much the on-street parking. If we're saying, are you saying not to have them in the car, but they could stand outside in the parking lot?
Yeah, because you don't necessarily, when the park's really crowded, you could be parking anywhere, and you may not be able to park anywhere near the field where your child's playing. So to walk all the way back to your car and then, back to the field again, it's pretty inconvenient. So I like the idea of getting people out of the crowd. So, as long as they're in a parking area, maybe that gets them out of where the crowds would be.
Well, I could probably go along with that as long as we designate a parking lot or parking area. I think I can go along with that. Thank you.
Other comments? Councilman Orleans.
I mean, this was part of the discussion by the commission, and trying to, number one, we already have ban on all the buildings and city parks, and employees aren't supposed to be smoking in city equipment or parks either. And they didn't want to go to a ban on everybody having to leave the parks because of some of the reasons you're saying, Councilman DiPolito. That's why they came up, and it was too hard, a designated area of all parking lots. Then somebody could be standing, you're by your cars waiting for the next game, or your kids are there, and somebody come out and walk over just to the edge of the parking lot and start smoking there. So they were trying to come up with something that would work. And I think they probably did the best they could without having to cover all these bases. And that was making the person's automobile, because the way we park, nobody likes walking very far to whatever venue they're going to. So they usually try to get parking pretty close to where they're at. And they thought that would work as a place, designated area that they could go to smoke is in their car. Because the other option was total ban in the parks. And this is what's coming from the commission members, and this is what they passed. So with that, I make a motion to approve it, the second reading, the way it's read, with the designated area being their automobile, and of course the amendment that was made last time with not being an enclosed automobile but being able to open their windows.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Eichelhart. Further discussion. Councilmember Wynn.
Councilman Orleans, what about motorcycles, that type of thing? So you're saying that the definition of private vehicle should be any motorized vehicle?
I'm going with the wording that's in it. Mr. Davison, I'm assuming it just applies to an automobile. Again, it comes to enforcement and trying to get down to every little vehicle that comes. I don't know how we can do as enforcement, or somebody standing next to their motorcycle versus sitting on the seat of their motorcycle. I'm just trying to keep it simple and trying to keep it something that we can work with, and trying to get the intent that the commission was trying to do.
I would hope the council would look at just the parking lot. I think cars put out emissions, and they put out smoke and diesel and fumes, and cars put out fumes, and Mr. DiPolito makes a good point. You may have to walk a long way from your children, and you don't want to leave your children, and you want to. And I have never smoked. Don't intend to smoke, but I don't hold a grudge against those folks that do. I would hope our children would never smoke, but I think as an adult they have that option, and I don't think government should be telling them whether they can smoke or not. And that's my nature. So I think the simple thing is to say in the parking place. Where a parking place is or isn't. It's made for a car, so I would not support the motion if it came to a tie. Councilmember Laurie Henry.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I agree with you on that, and also I would like to see the non-active parks removed from that. So, for example, the square or the triangle, because we might as well just ban smoking on Canton Street or any of our public places. And what we'd like to do is have people enjoy those places. It's not a place where, by and large, people congregate, except for a special festival or whatever the case may be. So it's not an organized sporting event that is involving a lot of children and displaying a bad habit in front of children. I agree with Mr. Toddy also that I just kind of hate to see us going down that slippery slope. Before you know it, we'll be where California is. And I'm sorry, but I think those folks are a little goofy.
Further discussion? We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Councilmember, any further discussion?
Yes.
Councilmember Orleans.
That's why the hand was up. In one of the points I was thinking about, too, is that triangle definitely should be taken out. The square, I don't know. Why don't, Mr. Davison, what's a timetable on a second reading? Because some of these ideas why don't I take it back to the commission with the thoughts from the council and kind of see where they want to go with it. What is our timetable for a second reading or a third reading?
We have 60 days from October 5th, so looking at December.
So we can have the discussion with the commission meeting at the end of this month and still bring it back to the beginning of November.
Yes.
So why don't I change my motion to,
You can just withdraw your motion, or motion to defer. You can withdraw your motion, make a motion to defer.
yeah, withdraw the motion and make a motion to defer for tonight.
We have a motion to defer. Do we have a second? Second by Councilmember Wynn. Further discussion? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. This time I'll call upon Environmental Public Works Liaison, Councilmember Jerry Orleans.
Tonight we have Stu here to answer the questions, and no stand-in. First item is the approval of a resolution to accept a fiscal year 2008 Special Appropriations Project grant in the amount of $31,480 from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency and approval of budget amendment G 302-10-10-09 for $31,460. Mr. Moore.
Yes, sir. Thank you. We were successful in receiving a share of the grant to the Metropolitan North Georgia Water Planning District for a special appropriations project grant. This is a continuation of what has commonly been known as Roswell as the Stormwater Demonstration Project. Alpharetta was also successful in the same amount, and because this is not enough money to do some of the construction projects that we had considered, we determined that the best use of funds for the program at this time would be to work jointly with Alpharetta on a watershed plan for Foakiller Creek. Alpharetta has received the same grant. They will have their own obligation for matching funds. Our matching funds will be covered by the remaining value of land that has been pledged for this program at Big Creek Park. So we recommend your approval of accepting this grant to do this work.
Does the council have any questions for Mr. Mooring? Do we have a motion?
I move for approval.
Motion for approval by Councilman Orleans. Do we have a second? Second by Councilmember DePolito. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Mr. Mooring, as I suggested in committee, I'd like to see part of this study look at the possibility of a trail up Foakiller Creek from the confluence with Big Creek. We've got some easements on part of that trail. We left room under the West Side Parkway to run a trail. So I know it's not, I understood that it's something that could be included within the scope of a study, and I would hope that we would try to work with Alpharetta to include that as part of a watershed plan.
Yes, sir. Greenways are very important elements of watershed management, and both Roswell and Alpharetta have been committed to inclusion of that sort of activity in our watershed plans.
Any further discussion before we take a vote? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. This time I'll call upon Councilmember Kent Eichelhart, liaison to the Administration and Finance Department.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And since Mr. Orleans has done everything else, I'm going to let him do this. Just kidding. But we're bringing back the renovation for 105A Dobbs Drive, and we had deferred it to take a look at it one more time with some of the folks on my Green Ribbon Committee. And Mr. Fisher, I'm not sure whom else met with, Simone Dubois of Cadmus Construction. And I'll paraphrase, but tell me if this is right, but basically we are too late in the process that would end up having additional cost and not that much benefit to it. But staff is thinking that it does make sense to, in the future, hopefully start from the beginning. So I do want to thank Simone for her time and effort, and the staff for taking another look. But at this point, it doesn't make sense to continue it and go ahead and put this forward. So I'll just make a motion to sign the contract with Caspian for $186,000.
Motion by Councilman Eichelhart to sign the contract. Do we have a second? Second by Councilman Orleans. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Any further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. At this time, we're adjourned. We're going to have a work session to discuss water resources in room 220 at this time.